Good morning to Israel and greetings from the University of Jyväskylä, Finland. Distinguished conference participants and distinguished hosts, it is my pleasure and my honor to have been invited to give this brief presentation on the learning-centered approach in education, the Finnish way. My motto is as follows: learning is a systemic challenge. It is a matter of the society at large, of education policy making and implementation, teacher education and school level realization, from principal to and with the teacher and pupils, other staffs and the community. Learning succeeds truly and sustainably when systemic alignment is in place. I will address my motto through 5 points. Finland's PISA results, society's respect for learning, from the paradigm of teaching to the paradigm of learning, solving learning challenges, our way, and no national standardized curriculum, no national testing, no inspection. As an introduction, I would like to mention a few points behind Finland's PISA success of the 4 rounds. Our results were produced by fewer teaching hours than the OECD average and with an expenditure per student which is an OECD average. Our students rarely repeat the school grades, and on average over 99% of the age group complete basic education. The average school size and the class size is fairly small. The autonomous municipalities are responsible for education provision for all, as stated in the Constitution. The educational tourists who have poured to Finland since the year 2000 have been puzzled and disappointed by the fact that work in our schools and classrooms looks so ordinary and mainstream on the surface. We have heard them exclaim, "The ICT equipment is rather ordinary. The teacher was teaching and the pupils were listening and answering questions. I did see group work too though," and so on. It is obvious that our results have not been achieved by teaching in fancy environments. Learning is about something else in Finland. Let us glance at our society, its support. The Finnish society has a long tradition of high respect for learning. The respect shows in the high status of teachers and principals and the high attractivity of the profession. Only 10% of the yearly applicants to teacher education can be admitted, and they are the crème de la crème of the upper secondary school graduates. Respect for learning also shows in how our society provides education. It is a constitutional human and civil right. Every citizen shall have equal access to education and development of the self, irrespective of age, gender, religion, political or sexual orientation, ethnicity, health or place of residence. Since the 1990s, the Finnish education system knows no barriers in moving from one level to the other in education, and participation in informal adult education involves 2.25 million registrations per year in a nation of 5.3 million people. How then did we move from the paradigm of teaching to the paradigm of learning? I can sincerely make the statement that we teach for our students to learn. We do not teach for tests. When the first PISA results came out, we were incredulously astonished, and we have continued our way. The point is to teach so that the pupils learn beyond any testing. Learning that is fun, challenging and meaningful bears fruit. Comparing education policies on the global scene, I claim that a nation's education delivery paradigm can remain at the level of the teaching paradigms anywhere where basic education is not a human right and civil right and accessible for every party. In these societies, high-ranked, mostly private schools draw the pupils with the socio-economic backgrounds matching the teachers' socio-economic backgrounds. We do know that the teaching profession is in the middle or higher socio-economic category, even if not financially rewarded. The match between the teacher's teaching skills and styles is likely to match that of the pupils. In this category, based on my own long professional experiences, I claim that the equation is that the pupils learn no matter how the teachers teach. Every practitioner knows that a pupil who does not match this equation may be forced or manipulated to change the school or has to repeat the grade. This was not unknown in Finland either prior to the 1970s and 1990s reforms. The 1970s education reform introduced the access to basic education to all to increase the education level of the nation. In the first 10 years, the pupils were streamed or tracked to 3 ability groups in foreign language and maths. The result was that children from lower socio-economic backgrounds and boys dropped into the lower tracks and consequently did not gain full access to secondary education and to follow to tertiary education. The conclusion in education policy was to delete the tracking or streaming system. Hence, in basic education on grades 1 to 9 and prior to that in the daycare centers and in preschools, our children live and learn in mixed ability groups, mainly by playing. The 1970s reform is definitely the education policy reason behind our PISA success. The challenge to the teacher's teaching skills and to the learning environment is radically different from the case of the socio-economic match between the teachers and the pupils. The Finnish teacher and the Finnish teacher education continuously have to invest in developing versatile methodologies and empowering pedagogy to address the needs of different learners in the same group. The teacher education is built on research-based learning, inquiry, reflection, dialogue of theory and practice, and engaging in lifelong learning. Our committed, well-educated teachers with the master's degree pride themselves in this approach. In the classroom work, they may be assisted by teaching assistants and special education teachers, and socio-psychological support is available in multi-professional teams in the schools. Yet there are learning challenges, of course. What is our way of solving them? There is much more than methodology to make learning take place. To note is that there is no inspection system in Finland left, but every school has had to conduct mandatory self-evaluation since 1994. The Finnish school functions with an inbuilt accountability system. It runs with trust, with trusting interaction between various parties. The principal trusts the good teachers, the teachers trust each other, the teachers and pupils build trusting relationships working together, and the community trusts the school. The teachers test their pupils a lot and are capable of diagnosing the stage of learning. Also, the pupils are encouraged and taught to engage in self-assessment. If underachievement is detected, we introduce early intervention measures immediately. They vary from personal attention to the individual pupil, remedial teaching, guidance counseling, special education to socio-psychological and medical support. The education policy is to support learners at the young age, as it is a research-based fact that learning habits and building sound self-esteem based on experiences of success and learning are formed at the early age. I would like to quote Haberman's article, The Pedagogy of Poverty versus Good Teaching, from 1991, where he defines good teaching. Good teaching is going on whenever students are involved with issues they regard as vital concerns. Whenever students are involved with explanations of human differences. Whenever they are helped to see major concepts, big ideas, general principles, instead of pursuing isolated facts. When they are involved in planning what they will be doing, when they will be taught in heterogeneous groups, when they will be involved in real-life experience, and so on. This is very much the Finnish way. Lastly, I will address the lack of standardized curriculum and testing in our education. As I see it, standardized curricula with standardized testing result in mediocre learning outcomes, as teaching is conducted for testing the limited curriculum. Secondly, there is no research-based evidence that standardized testing would impact enhancing learning and improvement of outcomes. Instead, the huge testing business victimizes learners, teachers and schools and gives the wrong tools to the disposal of education policymakers, politicians and the media. Instead, the resource could be placed on enhancing teaching and learning. In Finland, the basic education reform of the 1970s, which ensured equal access to education for all, was implemented first with a centralized national, highly detailed curriculum. In the 1994 decentralization of administration and curriculum reform, Finland embarked on a system where the National Board of Education issues the national curriculum guidelines, where the core is the same for all, but there is room for local development according to the capacities available on the school and the municipality level. The teachers, often also the parents, pupils and the community at large are involved in developing the school-based curriculum. There is no national testing in basic education, but sample testing in chosen subjects per year with random school samples on the final grade. The curriculum designed by a wide teacher constituency and the lack of national testing encourages teaching not only the curriculum, but as far and wide as the individual capacities carry. Learning takes place in an atmosphere devoid of fear for testing. Indeed, we do not teach for testing. This reality is beautifully rendered in a farewell poem of the Italian poet Giovanni Pascoli. Addio rondini, addio, andate in paesi, a noi sconosciuti. Goodbye swallows, goodbye. Fly to countries unknown to us. Isn't this the purpose of education? Thank you very much.